Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Wanderlust Wednesdays. Thank you all for joining this Wanderlust Wednesday. This is the webinar series in which we take you on amazing voyages all around the world. And today, I'm going to take you on a voyage of the trips that we have planned for 2024. And they span the globe. They're absolutely amazing. I actually sat down this morning, I did a count. Right now, we have 20 trips planned. Um, and probably more coming towards the end of the year. But we have a lot of Africa this time. So I decided to put on my kind of African print top to represent all the African trips. But we include Europe and Asia as well. So, my name is Lori Overton. I am the owner of Overton Travel. For those of you that you have traveled with me in the past, I want to say a great big thank you. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for telling folks about us. And for those of you who have not yet traveled with Overton Travel, I look forward to welcoming you into the fold, welcoming you into this Overton Travel family where we take pride in exploring God's great earth that he has created and soaking up all this goodness that available to us. So one of the questions is, Lori, is all of the 2024 trips on the website? I would say 90%, all the ones that I have planned, no, they're not on. Two trips that we're going to talk about today are not yet on the website. So most of the trips are on the website. So, but I'm going to tell you guys when I introduce a brand new trip for you. There are two that aren't there. They should be there next week. And but they're in the later part of the year anyhow. So let's get started. So I'm going to start sharing my screen with you because I have a great presentation. To go over with you, and let's see if I can bring it up. All right, I had all of this set up before I got on, so let me go back. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see my my screen now. So we're going to talk about the 2024 trips. The world is waiting for you. Let's go. The motto of Overton Travel for 2024 is go big or stay home. Y'all, we got some big trips out there. I know a lot of you guys are retired. And so some folks have even come up to me and said, Lori, I don't want to go anywhere less than 10 days. I'm like, what? Because we got time on our hand. So I have a lot of big trips out there. And then I have a handful of 1 week trips as well. And if I do add more trips to 2024, it'll probably be maybe some shorter trips later in the year. But let's get started here. Okay, so about us. About Overton Travel. Overton Travel is a Black woman-owned company. We specialize in creating amazing life-changing experiences around the globe. We do immersive trips where we immerse you in the culture, the history, the cuisine of the destination. So I will say right here, right now, sorry, not sorry. We do not do vacations. We do not do vacations. We do occasionally, maybe one or two when we go to Jamaica or so, or to Mexico. We do cultural experiences. So you will more than likely come back home tired, but you will come back home good and tired. I guarantee you that. So come, get ready to explore as much as you can while you're there. We do fully, we put together the full package for you. Really, all you have to do is pay and show up. I can plan when you purchase the full package, it includes your flights to and from the destination, your transfers once you get there. It includes your tours and everything. I give you some free time to explore on your own. So if you have a trip that's to a major metropolitan city such as Paris or so, I may give you more free time there because you can easily get around in a location like Paris. But most of the trips are just planned from beginning to end, and you just kind of just follow my lead. I even tell you what time to get up in the morning. Like literally, is that well thought out. Okay. So I'm just going to say welcome again. We've been locked up for 2 years or more at that point. So folks are ready to go. I am busier than I've ever been. So that's been a blessing because folks just want to travel. So since you want to travel, I want to send you there. And hence, that's why we are here today. So up before we go on to the next screen slide, I just want to show you a short video about where we have been just this year in 2023. We have gone so many places. So I just want to kind of set the tone for 2024 by showing you some of the things we've done for 2023. Okay. So that was a big thank you to the folks for 2023 that's been traveling with us, and that's so far this year. We still have more to come. So so that gives you an idea of how we get down, how we have fun on our trip. So I'm going to dive right into 2024. The first trip for 2024 is to Cuba. So Cuba is January 13th through the 20th, 2024. And I've done Cuba before, and it is an amazing trip. People have been asking me about Cuba for the last couple of years, and it has been closed. You know, when Trump came to office, when Obama was there, we opened it up. When Trump came, it closed back, and so now it's back open. And Cuba is great. It's a great destination. On the Cuba trip, what we do is we start in Havana. We spend 5 days in Havana, and we rip and run all through Havana. We learn about the Afro-Cuban culture. We do old Havana. We do like a cigar tasting and rum tasting demonstration. We do dancing and salsa and rumba lessons. We do so much in Havana. Oh, and of course, we ride in classic cars. You have to do the classic car ride in Havana. And then after we spend 5 days in Havana, we go down to Varadero and we spend 2 nights at an all-inclusive resort because the beaches in Cuba are just beautiful. Most Americans don't know about it, but Canadians and other people around the world have been exploring the beaches in Cuba. So that trip is in January. If you're interested in it, please sign up now. There is space still available on that trip. I think there may be about 15 or so, if I'm not mistaken, on that trip right now. So Cuba's open and we can take you there, and it's such a cultural experience. So as Cuba has been on your bucket list, now is the time to go. Okay. Then in February, we are heading to a place that has been on my personal bucket list, India. So we're going to India, and then, if we're going to go all the way over to India, we might as well hit up Nepal while we're there. Nepal is not a destination that you would necessarily just go to on its own. So it is a great destination to add as an extension because you will go there if you're in India. So we're doing that as well. So check out what we're going to be doing in India. India is a must-see destination. I would say probably the number one reason for going to India is the Taj Mahal. So we will definitely go and visit the Taj Mahal during sunrise to catch it with the glimpse of the sun shining off of it. It's been newly renovated. It has some restructuring done, so it's all good. I think the scaffolding is down there. Also, we will definitely visit the Golden Triangle, which is Delhi, Agra, and Jaipur. You will go to Varanasi, it's the sacred heart of Hindu India. We will see the people when they take their bath and the river. You'll get a chance to, of course, try all the Indian food, the spices, the naans, the curries. Oh my God, I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. You're going to experience high tea with a local family. Also on this trip, I've done India before. It was a shorter trip where we just did a Golden Triangle, but this time, since it's such a long flight, I made the trip a little bit longer. I'm gonna add it in the safari in India. In India, you do have the opportunity to actually see tigers in India. So I'm excited about that as well. And then we have the 4-night extension to Nepal. So the main trip is $48.99, and then the extension is $199 when you add it on to the trip. So India is great. We have a great group of people already signed up for India as well. So there is space still open on the India trip. All right. After India, also in February, we are going to the motherland, Ghana. I just got back from Ghana a couple of weeks ago. All these trips are running into each other, but Ghana is there is no other trip like Ghana. I do a lot of Africa trip, South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, and things like that, and each trip is unique in its own right. What makes Ghana unique? Ghana makes you feel like I am in the motherland. I am home, regardless of whether, I haven't done ancestry, so I don't know where my family from. Are they from Ghana, Senegal, Nigeria, what have you? But when you go to Ghana, you feel like you're home, regardless of whether your ancestors are from there or not. So that's what I love about Ghana. It has so much rich history. You feel welcome. You just feel the love, the akwaba is welcome. And when you go to Ghana. And so while we're there, I love this trip because we start in Accra and we learn about, Kwame Nkrumah. We learned about W.E.B. Du Bois, and we learn about the Ghana's, fight for independence. So Ghana is the first African nation to gain its independence. So it gained its independence from the UK. So we start in Accra and we learn all about that. And then we go over to the Cape Coast and we learn about the slave trade. And we learn about how, the Africans were captured and they were taken to the slave dungeons and the horrific condition in the slave dungeons. I mean, if I told you, it wouldn't even measure up to what it actually was like until you go there and you see those conditions that our ancestors endured. So we go to the slave dungeons and you learn about that history and the transatlantic history. We also take you, so that's in the Cape Coast area, right on the beaches of Africa. And then we take you to Kumasi, where you learn about the Ashanti history there, and you learn how bad the Ashantis was and stuff like that. So it just makes you proud again about your history. And then we go to the craft villages. I think Ghana is the trip where people probably shop the most, hands down. There is so much shopping to be done in Ghana with all the crafts and the wood carvers village, the kente cloth, the shea butter, the black soap. I don't know, everything. People start to ship stuff home. It's just unreal in Ghana. So we do a lot of stuff there. We go to, like I mentioned, we go to Accra. We attend an African naming ceremony at a local village, which is very touching. We shop in traditional market. We visit the Ashanti craft villages. And we all get African. Well, not all of us, but for those who would like to, we get African outfits made while we're there. We have a seamstress come to the hotel and fit us for the outfit. So it's always an amazing trip. I usually do this trip in July. I've done it in July for like the last 3 years. I switched it to February this year for 2024. We have a handful of people sign up. There is plenty of space on the February trip, but I've gotten a couple of emails from people who want me to do it in July. I haven't forgotten you. I have to get back to you. I may, if there's enough requests for a July trip for Ghana, I can do another trip in July. So if you're interested in a July trip, say yes in the chat. I'm interested in July, or shoot me an email after the call and say, yes, Lori, I want to go to Ghana in July. And I'll do that. I can plan another trip for July as well. Okay. All right. Moving on. In March, Dubai. Dubai has been like the hottest place on the planet, and literally and figuratively. It can be hot in Dubai, but if you travel with me, I'll take you there when the weather's warm. But the March Dubai trip is sold out. I still get an email at least once a week asking me, Lori, is there any space? Is there any space? Is there any space? So I may consider, I'm going to see if I can get more space for this March trip. Right now it's sold out. Maybe in the next week or so, I can see if I can get more rooms. And this is going to be a big trip because Dubai is one of those places that can handle a lot of people since it's so modern. The hotels are big, the buses are modern, and everything in Dubai is bigger, better. It's big, so you can take a lot of people to Dubai. Where some other trips I keep them small on purpose. So there's always a method to the madness here. This trip is sold out in March, but we have it again in November. So I'll go through the details of it on the November slide. Also in March, we have one of my favorite trips. I love all of the trips, but the Miracles Tours is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful South Africa trip. So we have 3 different trips to South Africa this year, and they are all different. Literally, you can come with me on all 3 South Africa trips and get a different experience. The only piece that will probably overlap is the Johannesburg piece of the trip because we fly in and out of Johannesburg. I love this particular trip to South Africa. We call it the Miracles Tour because it talks about the kind of 3 miracles of South Africa, the anti-apartheid miracles. So we learn not just about Nelson Mandela, we learn about other people in the anti-apartheid movement. We talk about the conservation miracle with the national park. So we visit Addo Park and go on safari there. So it's just a great trip. And this particular trip, talking about different sizes of trips, this trip is limited to 15 people. Just because of the nature of the accommodations we stay at boutique accommodations on this particular trip. There aren't, it's not the Marriott's, there aren't the big kind of Malia's hotel that we stay at. Like we do, or the Movenpicks like we do in Ghana. These are smaller properties because we visit the Eastern Cape of South Africa. So if you think of South Africa, like it's at the tip of Africa. On most of my other trips, we visit the Western Cape. Cape Town is on the west. And on this trip, we visit the Eastern Cape. So kind of like New York. The New York area. Cape Town is like California. So it's a different part of Africa, South Africa. It would be considered the countries where Mandela, other people are from the villages on the Eastern Cape, and they come to the cities looking for work. So it's just amazing. It's beautiful. The Indian Ocean is gorgeous. It's just a great trip. So let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to experience a thrilling safari game drive at Greater Addo National Park. What I love about Addo Park, it used to be called Addo Elephant Park because it has probably the largest concentration of elephants in South Africa. Just amazing elephants as far as the eye can see. And it has other animals as well, but the elephants are just thrilling to see. We learn about the legacies of South African anti-apartheid activists as well. We visit the local villages and meet up with the people. We learn about some of the rites of passage that the little girls and that the young men go through in the village. We go to the Eastern Cape in the Indian Ocean. We also go to Soweto. Like I said, we visit Johannesburg. We visit the Cradle of Humankind, which is a great, great, great tour, because life begins in Africa, and life, it's believed that life began actually in South Africa. So we go to the cave where they found one of the oldest human skeletons there. And like I said, we stay in exclusive boutique hotels. So it's just such a lovely treat with a smaller group. So if you like smaller groups and more intimate settings, this is definitely the trip for you. Just love it. All the cuisine is 5-star. Most 90% of the meals are a la carte. So it's just one of those type of trips that's a smaller group trip. So it's great, 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 great. I love it. Okay, I'm gonna stop here and see if there are any Q&A that I need to go to in the middle. Okay. I think I answered some of them. That's answered. Okay, hold on. Okay, somebody was asking me questions about the Ghana trip. They're asking if they're interested in Ghana, how much you have to pay. So the payment plan is all on the website. So for each trip, everything is on. When you click the learn more button, it takes you to the booking site. And on the booking site for all of my trips, I think just a good time to tell you that, is listed the cost, the payment plan, the hotels we'll be staying at, the flights, if the flights are available. Flights usually come out about 11 months before the trip. So between 10 and 11 months before the trip, I'll have the flights on the website as well. It tells you how many meals we're eating and everything. And it'll also tell you about vaccines and cancellation policies, and all of that is listed on the website. Someone is asking about COVID protocols. Currently, there are no COVID protocols in place for any of the destinations that we're visiting. They were all, I would say, probably at the end of last year. Every place that I visit no longer had any type of COVID protocols in place. Whether they come back or not, we'll wait and see. But as of this moment, there are no COVID protocols in place. I tell people to use their own judgment. If they want to mask up, mask up. You don't have to. Okay. And so someone said they don't have sound, but hopefully that's only one person. Okay. All right. So someone's asking about, they want to do the South Africa trip in March. That trip is still open, so we're right here. So you can go ahead and sign up for that trip. Not a problem. And then also someone asked, are flights included in the cost? Yes. So all of the costs here includes the flights, as well as the package as well. So they include flights and economy class. I get that question often, like, oh, what type of flight? These are economy class flights. If you want to upgrade, I can definitely help you to upgrade as well. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna continue on. All right. So I'm gonna continue on, and I'll come back to the chat and come back to the Q&A in a minute. All right. So what's the next trip? Let's see. What's the next trip we have? Brazil and Argentina. This is a great trip. I've done Brazil and Argentina a few times. I think I've done maybe Brazil 2 times and Argentina 1 time before. Brazil and Argentina, that we're going there April 10th through the 20th. And so we're actually going to start in Argentina. So we're flying from New York to Buenos Aires, spending a couple of days in Buenos Aires, and then from Buenos Aires, we go over to the Iguazu Falls, which is gorgeous. So we visit first the the Argentinian side of the Iguazu Fall on one day. Then we visit the Brazilian side of the Iguazu Falls on the next day. And then we leave there and we fly over to Rio. So this is great. So while in Argentina, we do the tour of Buenos Aires. We actually leave the outskirts of Buenos Aires and we go visit like a farm with horses and cowboys because Argentina is known for its meats, its beef. So Argentina and Brazil are very known, very well known for their meats. So you will get a lot of beef and other types of meats and on this trip, which is great. We also have vegetables and other things for our non-meat eaters as well. So let me tell you about some of the highlights of this tour. You will ascend to the summit of the Corcovado Mountain and see the Christ the Redeemer statue there. You'll see the Iguazu Falls, like I mentioned. We'll do an African Heritage Tour Rio. Whenever I can, I'll throw in some type of Black history, African history tour. And of course, as we're in Rio, we're going to do an African Heritage Tour there. We're going to visit Sugarloaf Mountain. Of course, if we're going to go to Argentina, we're going to go to a tango show. So we're going to go to a show. We're going to have our private tango lessons as well. And then we'll tour historic Buenos Aires. And so that's a great tour. I'm super excited about it. We have about 15 or so people booked for that trip right now. So there is still space available. And this is $53.99. The price is including airfare, all the airfare, the international airfare and the domestic airfare within the country, because we have to fly between Brazil and Argentina. And this is the double occupancy price. If you want a single room, it is extra. And on the website, it will list the additional cost for a single occupancy room. But this is a great trip, great time of year to go. All right. Then also in April, we are heading to Egypt. This trip, the first Egypt trip, sold out, and it's full. We have a little over 30 people on the Egypt trip, and so I decided to cut it off there because Egypt is a fast-paced trip. We do a lot of moving around in Egypt, y'all. I mean, it's temple after temple after temple. I know the first time I went to Egypt, I'm like, do I really want to see all these temples? But when you go to one temple, you're like, okay, I'm good. And then you go to the next one, you're like, oh man, that one is just as nice as the first one. You keep learning different things and you learn about how bad the Egyptians were. They were so ahead of their time. It's just, I don't know. I'm just in awe. When I go to Egypt, I've done that trip 3 times as Overton Travel, 3 or 4 times we've done it. I've done it personally twice before. And I feel like I'm in school when I'm on the Egypt trip because I didn't learn any of this in school. So it's just like on these trips, I'm learning all of this information. And I'm just like in awe of the strength, the intelligence of the forethought of what the Egyptians did is just amazing. When you see not just the pyramids, but when you go to the Valley of the Kings, that's my favorite part. When you go to Valley of the Kings and you're like, oh my goodness, it's amazing. So what we do on this trip is we spend 3 nights in Cairo. It was actually 4 nights in Cairo. I think the trip now, I made it 8 days longer, 8 nights now. So we start and end in Cairo. We spend 2 nights in Cairo in the beginning. And so in Cairo, we go see the Sphinx, of course, and the Great Pyramids. While we're there, we go to the Egyptian Museum as well. Then after 2 nights in Cairo, we hop on the plane, we fly to Luxor, and we go on a 4-day cruise down the Nile, which is amazing. It's great to just travel by cruise ship. You get to visit all of these sites, and you don't have to, keep packing and packing and things of that nature. And if the cruises down the Nile are slightly different really different than ocean cruises. The Nile River it's a river, so it's not that big. It's kind of narrow. You always see land when you're on the cruise. So that's good. And so you wake up in the morning and you get off the boat and you just walk. Usually you're within walking distance to the site, not walking distance, but like a short bus ride to the site that you're going to visit. And you come back to the cruise for lunch and for dinner. So you get up in the morning, you have breakfast, you go out, you see the sites, usually back on the cruise ship for lunch, because that's the height of the day, when it's hot. And then you have dinner then you go out again at night and you come back and you have dinner on the cruise ship. So it's a very nice experience. So we spend four nights on a cruise down the Nile. As part of the trip, we go to the Valley of the Kings and the royal burial grounds of the Pharaoh. We go to Luxor, which is amazing. We go to the Temple of Philae. We go to the Egyptian Museum. Also, this trip, I added a visit to Alexandria. Alexandria is the home to the world's oldest library. And so people had asked me about that before. So I added Alexandria to this trip as well. We also visit the Nubian village. If you're going to go to Egypt with me, I'm going to take you to the Nubian village, and you see how the Nubians, which are the darker skinned Egyptian, how they live, and we have lunch with them as well. So it's a great trip. So the first trip is sold out, but I added, by popular demand, I added Egypt tour too. So don't sleep. If you're interested in Egypt, sign up. I added the second tour, which is the next week, and that's on April 26th to May 6th. So sign up for that trip. So you do have a second opportunity. The trips are the same itinerary. I think one of the hotels may be slightly different on the trip, but otherwise it's pretty much the same trip. Okay. The next trip that we have in the first part of the year is we're hitting Europe. We're going to Paris, Amsterdam, and Bruges. I brought this trip back because we're going there next month. Actually, I'm going in September with a group, and this trip sold out like in 3 weeks. I couldn't believe it when I brought it. Everybody had been asking me for this trip, and when I finally got it, you guys came through. It was gone like in 3 weeks. So since that trip sold out for September this year, I decided to bring it back for May of next year. And one of the reasons that I chose May was because I wanted to see the tulips bloom in Amsterdam. So we should catch the tail end of tulip season in Amsterdam. So this is a great trip. It's combining 3 European countries, which is great. The countries are close together. So if you know me, I'm not big on country hopping at all. Like I'm more on like, let's do a deep dive into some countries. But this makes sense because we can drive between the 3 of them and catch kind of like the highlights of each of these places. So one of the most sought after activities on this tour is the Black Paris tour. Yes, we will be doing Black Paris on this tour. I had a group do Black Paris at the end of July, and they loved it as well. So we're doing Black Paris tour, and we do an illuminated tour Paris. We also do a Black Amsterdam tour. So there's an amazing woman who does a tour of Black Amsterdam. We learn about the contribution of African to Amsterdam. Go to I can't even say this right. We go to the gardens to see the tulips bloom. So what we do, literally, we get off the plane on this trip. We get off the plane because the flight lands early in the morning, like 8 or 10. I think something like before 10 o'clock. Our hotel isn't ready for us. So we get off the plane and we head to the garden that morning. So I really wanted to see those tulips bloom. So get some sleep on the plane, y'all. We do an Amsterdam food tour. We go in France to the Palace of Versailles tour. We explore the quaint city of Bruges in Belgium. It is such the cutest little town, almost like a picture postcard city. So Bruges. So we do Bruges, and we also do a tour of Brussels, which is the capital of Belgium as well. And then we do a cruise down the Amsterdam canals. We see the windmills. We do cheese tasting. So we do so much on this trip. And this is one of the trips I do leave you some free time in Paris. We spent 4 nights in Paris. And so since there's so much to do in Paris, I do include, of course, the Black Paris tour. We include the tour of Versailles, but then I give you a free day to do whatever you want, whether you want to go wine tasting, whether you want to go visit the Louvre, the Musée d'Orsay, or shop and buy a Louis bag from the Champs-Élysées. You have some free time to explore Paris on your own. This is a great trip. There's still a space available. There may be about 10, 15 people booked for this trip already as well. So there's still space available here. Okay. Let's see. Next trip is we're going back to Africa. So, Morocco. This Morocco trip is off the chain, y'all. I have a group going to Morocco. They're leaving Sunday, actually. So we now do this Morocco trip twice a year. It's that good. It is really that good. I do the trip twice a year. We do this trip in May, at the beginning of the spring, was usually around the last 2 weeks in May. And then we also do it in September. This is one of the trips where I do limit the size of the trip to 25 people, just because it is such an active trip. This trip is, I think it's 12 nights long, and we stay in 7 different hotels through this trip. It's just like one night here, 2 nights here, 3 nights. We have 2 places where we spend, I think, 3 nights, but everything else is like 1 and 2 nights. So it's like on the go, but it's an adventure throughout Morocco. We cover all, I can't say all the highlights, but most of the highlights of Morocco, and it's great. So let me just tell you about some of the highlights. One of the highlights, of course, is the day that we do the camel ride, and we spend the night in the Sahara Desert. So we stay in luxury tents in the desert, and it's amazing. Just imagine you're in the Sahara, y'all. You're wearing, you have your little scarf wrapped around your face. You have your Overton Travel t-shirt on because you're in the desert, and you're riding on camels. So it's great. It's really one of my favorite trips. I would personally do that Morocco trip every single time if I could, but I have a team to help me out. So I do try to share the love. And if you guys have been on any of these trips that I'm talking about in the chat, you can co-sign on what I'm saying. Like, yes, it was great. You had a great time or what have you. This was an amazing trip. Okay. So let me tell you some of the highlights. We do take a Moroccan cooking class, which is great. We do this on the last day, I think the last day of the trip. You learn about the food you've been eating throughout the trip. Moroccan food is delicious. We visit the markets and Medinas for unique items. I think Morocco is probably just second to Ghana in the amount of shopping that people do. Morocco is it's a shopper's paradise. I mean, people buy so much argan oil, rose water, the rugs, Moroccan rugs. I mean, you name it, the leathers. People get leather outfits made there as well, leather purses. Even I got caught up. I think I got a Moroccan rug in here somewhere too. So it's great for shopping. You tour inside of Hassan II Mosque, and that's in Casablanca. We do that the first day. And the reason that this is unique is because this is one of the few mosques that allow non-Muslims to actually go inside and see it. So you can tour it. I have mosque on other trips, like in Abu Dhabi. When we go on the Dubai trip, you go to Abu Dhabi, but you just visit the outside of the mosque. You don't visit where people can pray and things of that nature. So I really like that tour. It's a really unique tour. You become immersed in the Moroccan culture. We visit Moroccan families. We visit the nomads in the desert. We stay in unique accommodations. We had the gamut from 5-star to 5-star Sofitel and Marrakesh, to the luxury tents in the desert, to the riads that we stay in, to the little local place that we stay in as well. So you have the gamut of everything. Oh, and then we have one of my favorite places, up in Ephraim in the mountains. I won't even tell you about that. And also, this is a great trip for wellness. I think I had 3 different massages on my last Moroccan trip. I was always putting in the chat, hey, y'all, if you need me between 7 and 9, I'm in the spa. So this trip has some of my favorite spas in them. So talk to me later. Anybody who was with me, Lorraine says hi if you're with me on that last Morocco trip, because anyway, inside joke about that. But Morocco is great. Great, great, great trip. And we do it twice. After Morocco, we do Bali. Oh my goodness. I've been doing Bali for the last 3 or 4 years, and it is always a crowd pleaser. People come back from Bali just telling me how amazing it is, and I get mad because I personally have not been able to go on the Bali trip. Every time I plan it, something comes up, and so I have one of my ambassadors lead the trip for me, and everyone comes back telling me how amazing it is. And so one of these days I will personally get to Bali, but I have a great team of people who've been there and tell me about it. They say, if Bali's like heaven on earth. I remember I had one of my clients come back to me after the Bali trip, and she's a regular, and she said, Lori, and in such this calming voice, Lori, if I never go anywhere else again, I'm good. She came back zenned up from Bali. It was amazing. And so Bali is known as paradise. It's a place of zen. So this trip right here is a nice hybrid of cultural experiences, and you do get a bit of a vacation on this trip. So that's my gift to you. So what we do in Bali, we spend the first 4 nights in Ubud, and that's in the city part of Bali. Our hotel is amazing because although you're in the middle of the city, when you go through the doors, you're in an oasis. You don't realize where you're at. So in the first 4 nights, you go to explore the sacred temples. It's a lot of temples that are available and that you can see. You go to the famous rice terraces. You go to a Balinese cooking class. They even did jewelry making. Oh, I don't even. Of course, they do the Bali swings. If you've seen some pictures on my Instagram or Facebook, you would have seen some of the Bali swing pictures, which is a highlight. So after the 4 nights in Ubud, then we take you down to Nusa Dua, and you spend 4 days on the beach. It's probably 3 full days where you can just really relax on the beach. So you do get a bit of a vacation here on this trip. This year, when my group just went in August of this year, I added Singapore to it, and I will be adding Singapore as well as an optional extension. So that should be coming out in the next, I would say, couple of weeks, maybe by the end of September. I'll have all the details about adding Singapore to it, because we fly Singapore Airlines and we do stop in Singapore on the way to and from Bali. So it's a natural extension to the trip, and they enjoy the Singapore portion of the trip also. Okay. So let me see. I'm going to stop here as well, and I'm going to look at some of the Q&A. All right. Okay. Let me see what we have here. Okay, so someone's asking about Ghana. So I look like I probably will add a July Ghana trip out there. So give me a couple of weeks to get that together. Someone's asking me about COVID again. I don't have a crystal ball on COVID right now. I am moving forward as if everything is going to be all right. So um, yeah, so I'm not in a fear state right now. So if you're all concerned about COVID, I stay prayed up, stay masked up, and we will cross that bridge when we get to it. Because I can't speculate about COVID right now. So someone's asking me about the Ghana trip. Yes, there are no meat options for the meals. So I just had a vegetarian on the last trip that we went to Ghana, and so we always have meat, no meat option on all of our trips. So I'm glad you asked that question. So when you sign up for a trip, I ask if you have any dietary requirement. So you just need to let me know if you are, pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan. If you can't eat shrimp, just let me know what your dietary requirements are, and I will do my very best to accommodate. Usually, I have been able to accommodate people, so just let me know what your dietary requirements are. Okay. The Ghana trip in February still has space in it. I think there's maybe about 10 or so, if that many, on the February trip. So there is still a lot of space on the February trip. Yeah. Someone's asked me, do I ever have a trip to Portugal? We just got back from Portugal. I had a trip to Portugal in July. So yes, we do go to Portugal, and we just got back. Um, there is a question about how long the Bali trip is for. The Bali trip is about 10 days long. It's 8 nights there, but you spend a day getting there and back. So it's about 10, 11 days long, but it's 8 nights, actually 8 days in Bali. And so, oh, someone says, are men allowed on trips? Absolutely, men are allowed on trips. We have men on most of the trip. It just so happens that, I do have one or two men that just come by themselves all the time. And then most of the men that are on the trip are usually there with their wives or their girlfriends. But yes, on the Ghana trip, we probably had 6 men on the last Ghana trip. If you go to my website, you'll see some men on the trip. But yes, men are definitely allowed on the trip. So someone asked, can you do a deep dive and in less than one country have? Yeah, so we do have 2 countries per trip. So yes, so for instance, we do um Bali, which is Indonesia, and Singapore. So that is 2 trips there, and then I have other trips later on where we're doing multiple trips as well. And then someone's asking a question about the Morocco trip. How are you transported in the various hotels? We have our own bus, our own coach bus. So on all of our trips, we have our own vehicle. So my trips are always private. Nobody else, no one that's not with Overton Travel is allowed on our trips. So on every single trip we have our own bus that takes us from the airport to the hotel, and we use our own bus to travel throughout the tour. So in Morocco, we have our own bus that picks us up at the airport and drops us off at the airport. So someone asking, can they just do the Brazil portion of the Argentina and Brazil trip? Um, yes, but you have to pay for the whole trip. So the trips are a package. And so if you choose not to do part of the package, that's up to you, but we don't break the trip down into different components. So if you wanted to just fly in for the last 4 days and do Brazil, I can arrange that, but it is one package price. So the Morocco trips may say they missed the dates. I believe is I'll go back. It's towards the end of May. Um, and are teenagers allowed on the trip? Depends. I would say yes, we do have some teenagers on the trip. They all the teenagers come. They come with their parents. So we just had a teenager on the Bali trip. I've had teenagers come with us to South Africa. You need to know your child and see how they can handle the long flights or the trip as well. But yes, we do have teenagers that come with their parents on trips. And then someone asked, are there any vaccinations needed for Morocco, such as malaria? No vaccinations are required for Morocco, and you do not need to take malaria pills for Morocco. Okay, so I think I've gone through all of the questions um, so far. All right, so I'm going to go through, continue on for the next half because we got a lot of ground to cover. Let me see how I'm doing with time here. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, let me keep moving. Italy. Up. You guys are the first to hear about the Italy trip. It has not been launched. So I think Adrian had asked for all the trips on the website. This trip is not on the website yet. I literally just inked it this week. So let me tell you about this Italy trip. People have been asking about Italy for quite a while now. So we are going to Italy, and this trip we're going to visit 3 cities in Italy. For those of you who are interested, we are going to fly into Venice. We're going to spend 2 nights in Venice. Then we're going to travel from Venice to Florence, spend 2 nights in Florence. And then from Florence, we'll go to Rome and spend 3 nights in Rome. So we're hitting Venice, Florence, and Rome in this trip. So we have our own bus throughout the trip, private tour. So let me quickly tell you the highlights. So in Venice, of course, you're going to do the gondola ride. You're going to go to the Merino glass factory and see how glass is how they blow up glass. there. When we go to Florence, Florence is one of my favorite cities in Italy. It is the birth of the Renaissance. So, and Florence has beautiful architecture, beautiful art, beautiful churches. And of course, while we're in Florence, you're going to go to the Accademia and visit the statue of David. They call it like the perfect statue. So we visit the statue of David while you're there in Florence. Also, if you're going to go to Florence, we're going to go to Tuscany and we're going to visit a local wine farm. And y'all know I love some wine. So we're going to eat dinner at a wine farm and do some wine tasting there while we're in Tuscany. Then we're going to go down to Rome. And then, of course, while in Rome, we're going to go visit the Vatican and the Sistine Chapel. I was just there in July with another group. Still amazing, amazing, amazing. One of the highlights of the trip is going to Rome. We'll visit ancient Rome. We'll go to the Roman Forum. We'll visit the Colosseum, the Spanish Steps, the Trevi Fountain. There's a lot to do and Rome while we're there. Also going back to Florence on the way from Venice to Florence, we will stop in Pisa. You'll see the Leaning Tower of Pisa, visit the Square of Miracles. So there's a lot going on this trip. So it is, I don't know, the dates are June 11th through the 22nd, $59.99 per person, including flights, hotel, tours, and most of your meals as well. Amazing trip to Italy. We hit the three major cities on an Italy trip. Okay. Now, y'all, we just covered the first half of the year. So I'm going to kind of speed up a little bit, go to the second half of the year. This is the summer of Europe because we have Paris, Amsterdam, and Bruges in May. In June, we have Italy, where we're visiting Venice, Florence, and Rome. Now in July, we got Central Europe for you. This is a brand new trip for me. I'm super excited about this. Central Europe, July 17th to the 27th. We are going to Vienna, Prague, and Budapest. So this is for my folks who've been everywhere. I have some people that, Lori, I've been here, I've been here, I've been here, I've been there. So let me throw something at you. There are places you probably have not yet been to. Great history in these places. I would call them the lesser known cities. And I call these kind of like the second, not second tier in any nature, but after you have kind of been to like the Italies and the France and the United Kingdom, then you start exploring other countries in Italy. Prague has historic charm. They're known for classical music, beautiful architecture, the Viennese, the grandeur of the buildings. They used to be very, very rich in this part of Europe. In the past. So you'll see the richness here. We'll eat some great food while we're there. And we actually have a visit to the spa built into this trip. So join up if you want to go to someplace different that's a little bit off the beaten path. This trip to Central Europe will be a crowd pleaser. Great hotels we picked out, great inclusion with the cooking, and not cooking, but with the culinary and the spas and things of that nature. So I would say come join us in Central Europe. Okay, I'm gonna start moving. South Africa, y'all. This right here, this trip to South Africa, my group just got back Saturday and they loved it. This right here is the trip that started Overton Travel, and it really has not changed much at all. I would say most of my clients that have traveled with me have started with the South Africa trip. I call it my classic tour. We spend 4 nights in Cape Town. We spend 2 nights on safari in Plassenburg. We stay at a private game reserve. This is a great experience there. And then after that, we spend 2 more nights in Johannesburg. So this part covers the Western Cape. And this is a great trip. I do it every year in August. School is out, so it's a great trip if you're on the East Coast and you need something to do during the summertime. If you want to take that teenager on that trip, if you are an educator, I try to get this trip done before Labor Day so you can sneak it in right before you go back to school. But this is probably one of my number one trips to South Africa. Always a crowd pleaser. Greece. Greece is amazing. This is one of my favorite European countries. We're going to Greece September 12th to the 21st, and I took an amazing group to Greece this June, and we had a great time. We had a really, really great time. So, if any folks from that Greece trip is on this call, I'm gonna say hi to my cousins. By the end of the trip, we were calling each other cousins. That's how wonderful the trip was. Amazing. Greece is probably, I would say, after Dubai, probably one of the most sought after places to go to. Last summer, I sent people to Greece, and Santorini was literally sold out. And I'm not even joking; it was sold out. I had a hard time finding a place for her in Santorini, but we got it. So on this Greece trip, it's a great combination of different experiences. We start in Athens, and in Athens, you're going to learn about the ancient culture by visit the Acropolis and the Parthenon. You learn about some Greek mythology there. We'll do an Athens city tour where you visit the new Acropolis Museum, which is amazing in Athens. We also have an optional tour to go see Dinner in the Sky, which is such a fun night of Dinner in the Sky. So we spend 2 nights in Athens. We stay in a hotel that's located right in the center of the Plaka. You walk out of the door and boom, you're in the middle of everything. 2 nights in Athens. Then we take the ferry over to Mykonos. We spend 3 nights in Mykonos. Mykonos is the party island of in Greece. Mykonos is great, beautiful, has a nice, lively atmosphere. Beautiful beaches in Mykonos, so that's the place to hit the beaches as well. Then after 3 nights in Mykonos, we then take the ferry over to Santorini, and we spend 3 nights in Santorini, which is probably one of the most beautiful places on earth, at least probably in the top 10 beautiful places on earth. We do wine tasting in Santorini. We see the sunset over Ia. There is shopping to be done in Greece. I think Greece kind of sells itself. It's beautiful. The food is so fresh and wonderful. The people are welcoming. So I love this Greece trip. It's at the end of September, so mid-September. So kids are back in school. So hopefully the crowds aren't as bad as they are during the summertime. And Greece is warm, I would say, up until the end of October. So the weather should be very, very, very pleasant. Great, great trip. Greece is a lot of walking. I'll let you know about, not a lot of walking, but it is uneven steps in Greece, the cobblestone streets. So just be wary about that. But it's one of my favorite trips as well. All right, let me keep moving on. Morocco, this is the Morocco tour too. I won't talk much about that because I gave all the highlights when we talked about the first trip. The first trip is in May. And this is the second trip is September 16th to the 28th. They are the same trip, same hotel, same everything, but same price. The only difference is the dates. Okay, this is a brand new trip as well. So I am super excited about this East Africa trip. We are going to Kenya, Tanzania, and Zanzibar. This is a trip of a lifetime. I've already told my ambassadors, I'm taking this trip. I'm going to East Africa because I have got to get to the Serengeti, y'all. And on this trip, we are doing that. Three of the highlights. We're going to start this trip in Kenya. So we're going to fly into Nairobi. I haven't bought the flights yet because flights aren't available. We'll probably have flights available probably by December of this year. When we're going to visit the Giraffe Manor. While we're there, well, the Giraffe Park. The Giraffe Manor, which is a hotel, and there's another like Giraffe Park. Anyhow, we'll visit the giraffe, get up and close with the giraffe in Kenya. We'll visit Nairobi. We'll go to the Carnivores restaurant in Nairobi as well. Then we'll go from there and we'll head out to Tanzania. Well, the bulk of the trip will be spent in Tanzania, and so we will do the East African Safari, which people say is like the best safari. I don't know. I haven't been there. I've been on tons of safari in South Africa. I've been on safari in West Africa. So now when I go on safari in East Africa, I'll be able to tell you which one I like the best. But the Serengeti is amazing. So this is a trip of a lifetime in there. While we're in Tanzania, or Tanzania, as the locals say it, Tanzania, we'll visit with the Maasai tribes. And so the Maasai tribes, you've seen them. They're very tall and thin, and they jump up and down. I've already mentioned the Giraffe Center in Nairobi. We're going to visit the Ngorongoro crater, which has been on my bucket list. It's a volcano that has imploded, and we'll actually take our safari vehicles and go down into the craters. It's just an amazing sight to behold. And then we'll spend 3 lovely nights in Zanzibar, the Spice Island of Zanzibar. And that is where we'll end the trip. And so we have, probably about, 7 or 8 nights of just going, going, going. And then we slow down a little bit and we end in Zanzibar, which is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This trip is almost sold out. So I know it's in November of next year, but we already have about 20 people booked on this trip. I will limit this trip to about 25. This is one of the trips where I won't take 40 people or so. We'll limit it to 25 because we have different safari vehicles that we want to be in. So I like to keep the trip to like 3 or 4 different vehicles. So if you are even thinking about this trip, I will say go sign up. I got a feeling by the end of September, the trip will be closed. So it's only about five to six slots still left on this trip. Amazing. Okay. So later, after East Africa, we got another big, big trip coming on. Y'all have been asking me for this. It's not on the website yet. This is the second trip that'll come out next week. We're going to Southern Africa. And the reason I say Southern Africa is because we're hitting South Africa, Eswatini, and Zimbabwe. Y'all been asking for these longer trips, and here it is. This is November 8th to the 22nd. This is 2 weeks long. And this trip combined the best of the South Africa trip that I currently do. So we will still get to Cape Town on this trip. You'll still get a chance to explore Table Mountain, the Cape Peninsula. We'll go to Robben Island. We'll do wine tasting in Stellenbosch. We'll do all the things that we do on my normal, my classic, I would say, South Africa trip, where we go visit Cape Town. But then what the difference is, we're adding going to Eswatini. Eswatini used to be called Swaziland. So you're probably more familiar with Swaziland. Swaziland is absolutely gorgeous. It is probably, I went to Swaziland, I would say, gosh, maybe 15 years ago. And it's green, it's beautiful, it's lush. So when we're in Swaziland, we'll get the village experience there. We'll get immersed in village life. So we will visit some of the huts and the local people and dine with them. So that's going to be a great part of this trip. We'll also go on safari in Kruger. Some people have been dying to go on safari in Kruger. I love safari. I've been to Kruger. I've been to Pilanesberg. I've been to Addo. Kruger is probably the most well-known park. So this one includes Kruger. So if you want to check Kruger off your list, you can. So that's one of the differences here. We'll also go to see the panorama route in South Africa, which is gorgeous. They have this place, it's so gorgeous. They call it God's window. When you look out, it's like God looking. They call it God's window because it looks like you're looking out from the heaven, like God would be looking down on the earth. It's just amazing. South Africa is probably one of the most beautiful places on the planet. And I never ever tire of going on this trip. So this has the panorama route in there. And then a place that a lot of folks have been asking me for, it includes Victoria Falls. So we will be going to Victoria Falls, which is in Zimbabwe. So this is one of those 3 country tours. We're hitting South Africa. We're hitting Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland, and we're hitting Victoria Falls. We'll be staying at the Victoria Falls Safari Lodge, which is amazing. So we have a part of the trip is we will go on a sundowner cruise on the Zambezi River, and then we'll actually go walking by the falls themselves. So this is a super fabulous trip. And this is in November, and it's warm. It's warm in South Africa during that time. In August is a little bit chilly in Cape Town. But in November it's springtime, heading into summer. So this trip will be during the warm weather of the month. Big trip, 2 weeks long, $73.99 per person based upon double occupancy, including your flights domestically, internationally and domestically, because we have flights from Cape Town to Durban, and then we have flight from Johannesburg um, to Zimbabwe. So it's a lot included in this tour. Not on the website yet. It should be up next week, and you'll be one of the first to know about it and can book this trip. Okay. Dubai tour. I won't go over Dubai. The same tour that we do in March. So people have already, I think maybe 10 people have already booked this tour already. Then after Dubai, so those are the highlights, Dubai. And then Iceland. Iceland is in November. This is such a wonderful trip. This is one of my shorter trips. You can do this trip in a week. My group that went to Iceland last year absolutely loved it. Iceland is beautiful. They called it out of ward. I can't even say it. Worldly, with the glaciers and the icebergs, and they went to the Blue Lagoon. They went to hunt for the Northern Lights. They enjoyed the cuisine. And then one of my clients came back from Iceland and said, "Lori, the food was good." I was like, "How was the Iceland food?" She said, "It was seasoned." She said it had good seasoning on the food, because people were asking me, how is food going to be in Iceland? And it was great. Great food in Iceland. Unique accommodations in Iceland. So people came back from Iceland just having a great time. And it was not as cold as people thought it was going to be. So it was very similar to the weather here in the East Coast in November. So it's a great trip. It's one of those short trips. It's about I think it's 6 nights, and it's about a week. So that ends the tours for 2024. I still don't have a trip for December yet, so we may have something for December. I need to take a break from planning trips right now, and December will probably come out a little bit later. I'm kind of eyeing for December a trip to Asia. I don't have that many Asia trips, so I'm thinking maybe Thailand, maybe Vietnam. But this is an opportunity for you guys to, drop me a note. Let me know where you want to go. I'm looking at sending out a survey over the next couple of weeks, and asking you, what's on your bucket list? What trip do you want me to add to the list? If I can get in 2024, maybe, but my sights will probably turn to 2025 soon, so I can get those trips out there for you guys. So let me know about that. So. I'm out of breath. I'm out of time. Sorry about that. So who's going to take you on your next amazing adventure? I hope you'll be saying this.
Videotaping you. Where are you going?
South Africa.
Oh, and what are you going to do? Who you traveling with?
Overton, baby.
What I'm talking about.
All right, folks. Thank you for joining this webinar today. Hopefully these trips have sparked your interest with traveling, and that you see a trip that you want to travel on. And so I'm going to go into the Q&A, into the chat, to see if there are any more questions that I can answer before folks start logging off. So let me go back here, and I'm going to go into the Q&A, and then I will go into the chat as well, because I know folks probably put some questions in the chat. Okay. Somebody asked me about pictures of the Brazil and Argentina trip. If you go on the website, overtontravel.com, I've done Brazil and Argentina before, so you may find some pictures of past trips. I definitely know we did Brazil. Yeah, we did Brazil and Iguazu Falls in 2020, because that was actually the last place I went to. I almost got stuck in Brazil. They shut down the world while we were in Brazil, and my group, we caught literally the last flight out of Rio. So if you go to the website, you will see some pictures of the past trip. All right, so I'm trying to see what other questions I have. I think I've answered everything. Somebody asked how many people on the South America trip. Oh, the Brazil trip right now has about 15 people on it right now. Yeah, I know more are coming. Oh my goodness. Somebody asked, any plan for South Africa with Victoria Falls? Yes, that's the November trip that was there. Um, yes. So someone asked, is Bali still on for June? Yes, the Bali trip is still on for June. You can go to the website and book that trip. Um, so yeah, so I answered all the questions in the Q&A box for now. Let me head over to the chat. Oh, there's a lot of going. Let me try to scan the chat. All right. Oh, great. You guys went to Morocco. Yay. It was a great trip. I visited the mosque in Abu Dhabi now. Yeah, I know that the mosque in Abu Dhabi, you don't go inside the room where people are praying. You go outside a little bit, but not inside a prayer room. But yeah, we go to Abu Dhabi as well. Yeah, Ghana in July. Okay. Um, love South Africa. Okay. All right. I think which airline to East Africa? The East Africa trip, the flights have not been purchased yet, just because that trip is not until October and the flights won't be available until um till tomorrow. And I'm sorry, I'm just seeing the notes how it was hard to see my screen. Apologies about that. So there was a black bar across the screen. Okay. Um I'll see if I can fix something when I release the recording. Is there an Amsterdam trip? Yes, we're going to Amsterdam in May. The Amsterdam is paired with the Paris trip. Okay, great. Yes, this website is being recorded. So in a few days I'll be able to send the recording out for you. Okay, I'll keep you posted if I add more rooms to Dubai. So I will likely do it. I just have to make sure see how many I can get. How's the weather in Africa in January, in South Africa in January? It's summertime, so the weather is warm in January. The best time, I can't say best time, the summer months, December, January, February, March, are pretty warm months. So South Africa is below the equator. So just think about when it's winter here in the US is summer there. So all the seasons are opposite from us. And someone asked me, when traveling with Overton, can you book your air travel separately? Absolutely. Um, I offer the prices that you see and the presentation is the full package price that includes the airfare. But when you go on the website, you'll see a land only rate that does not include the air, because most of my clients come from New York. But now that people all across the country have become aware of Overton Travel. I have clients that travel from LA, that travel from Atlanta, North Carolina. So you can book the land only package and then book your airfare separately. People that book their airfare separately for two reasons: they're either not coming from New York or they want to upgrade their seats. So I have some folks that need extra legroom and need like a premium economy seat, or you may need a business class seat. In that case, we book your airfare separately. So we can accommodate booking separate airfare. If you are single now, can you add another person later? Yes. So you can book the trip and then add an extra person later, so long as the trip isn't sold out, I would say. Once the trip is sold out, then you may not be able to add a person, but as long as the trip isn't sold out, if you sign up for a single and then next month or what have you, say, oh, Lori, I have a roommate now, we can usually accommodate adding that extra person to your room. You're doing Morocco. Oh, going to Morocco on Sunday. That's Juanita. What airline is used for Bali? For Bali, we use Singapore Airlines for Bali. Am I planning East Africa for 2025? Not sure yet. Maybe I probably will because it got such a good response for 2024. More than likely, I'll do East Africa again in 2025. Somebody asked what other trips include a lot of walking besides Greece. You know what? I'm just gonna be honest with you with the walking thing. You need to have um good mobility for most of the trips. Morocco requires a lot of walking. Greece requires a lot of walking. Egypt Egypt definitely requires a lot of walking. Usually, the older the country, the harder it is with the pavement. So, if you have mobility issues, Egypt is one that is a lot of walking. And I recommend you guys, if you do have mobility issues, number one, let me know. I've had people show up on a trip and ask me if there's a wheelchair. I'm like, no, we don't have no wheelchairs on the trip. No, we don't. I'm sorry. We have wheelchairs at the airport, but not on the actual trip. Um, but if you do have mobility issues, bring an able-bodied person with you that's going to be your roommate or that's going to be your friend or partner on a trip, so they can help you on the trip. I mean, we are passionate, kind people, so we're not going to speed up everything. So we do have people with different mobility level, and if somebody's a little bit slower, I always make arrangements. I say, you know what, this part of the tour may be a little difficult for you, so maybe we can find a place for you to sit while we do the tour and we come back and pick you up, or maybe you want to stay on a bus for this 20-minute walk that we're going to do or what have you. So we do make accommodation where possible for people with mobility issues, but you have to know also yourself and know what your limits are. I've had people that say, Lori, you know what? I'm going to stay in a hotel today. I'm going to sit by the pool today because I know it's a lot of walking and I'm just going to sit there. So know what you can and you cannot do. But there are some trips such as Morocco and Egypt and Greece that I can tell you offhand has a lot of walking and uneven pavement. And if you do decide to do a trip like that, you need to be comfortable with saying, you know what, maybe there are parts of the trip that you have to skip. Oh, and Italy also. Walking through the Colosseum is no joke. It's all cobblestone. There's no shade. So we can find a spot for you to sit, or you can sit out a part of the trip that day. Okay. Someone asked, when's the Bali trip? The Bali trip is in June. I can't remember the exact date. June 4th, I think, the 4th or the 15th or something like that. Okay. I have gone over an hour. I think, let me see if there are any more questions here. Somebody asked, what's the temperature in Paris and Amsterdam in May? It's springtime. So in May, it's very similar to how it would be here in the East Coast. I would say in the 70s or so, springtime temperature. So quite pleasant. So is Ghana a strong possibility for next summer? All right, y'all. So people keep asking about Ghana. And if I put this Ghana trip out here for July, y'all better sign up for it. Okay. Look, so I'm taking names. I see people asking me for this Ghana trip. So if I put it out here, I want to see some sign up for it. Then there's another question about would your February Ghana trip be similar to your July Ghana trip? Yeah, the two trips, the February and the July trip, they're the same, just different types of year. So I've always done Ghana in July. So sometimes I like to switch it up. And I did February because I thought going to Ghana in February, which is Black History Month, would be a nice time. To visit. But the February trip and the July trip, they're the same, just different types of year. Okay. Now I'm going to just check the Facebook group to see if there are any questions on Facebook, and I will answer them. All right. Oh, hey, Cheryl. Yep. Greece was amazing. Nikki, do all the trips leave from New York? So like I mentioned earlier, the full package price includes leaving from New York, but I do have clients that leave from Florida, leave from Orlando, leave from Tampa. I have two of my regulars that always leave from Tampa, in particular, and some that are leaving from Orlando. And what I can do is, if you're not leaving from New York, I'm not going to leave you out there stranded on your own. I can help you book your flight from your home city and meet us in destination. Because I even have people that want to that live in Jersey that don't want to come to JFK, so they may fly out of Newark. And if they get to the destination before or after the group, I can arrange private transfers that'll pick you up at the airport and bring you to the hotel to meet the group. And so you do not have to leave from New York for these trips. You can leave from your home airport. So hopefully that helps answer your question there. Okay. All right, guys, I am going to end in this webinar. If you have any question, reach out to me at Lori at overtontravel.com. Please visit overtontravel.com and book your trips. The trips are on the website, except for the Italy trip and the Southern Africa trip aren't there yet. They should be there next week sometime. If you're interested in something, sign up for it right away. People sometimes will call me, email me and say, Lori, I'm thinking of doing this trip or that trip. Telling me doesn't hold your spot. The only way that you are officially on a trip is when you put down a deposit. So if you are thinking of something, yeah, it's nice to be told for you to tell me, but the only way to hold your spot is to go book and pay your deposit. So run to overtontravel.com, find your trip, pay your deposit, and then you're in. So thank you all for your time. This webinar is being recorded. I will send out an email when the recording is available. Give us a couple of days to kind of massage it a little bit. But we do put all of the Wanderlust Wednesdays webinars and other webinars on the Overton Travel YouTube channel. You will be able to go there and see it. And so I will send out an email with the link to this recording. So thank you once again, everyone, for all of your time. I look forward to you traveling. Like I said, our motto for 2024 is go big or stay home. And I know y'all ain't staying home. One last question. Is food included in the package? Breakfast is included every day. And most meals, I would say maybe probably 60% of your meals, 60 to 70% of your meals are included in the package, because I like to leave a couple meals open for you to go and explore on your own, but most of the meals are included. Okay. All right. So that's the last question I'm answering. Email me with any other questions. Thank you all. Be blessed, be well, and keep traveling. Take care.